Okay, chapter 10, text 30. Somebody wants to read?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I think it's text 31, no, Prabhuji?
31, right? Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Text 31. Bhavana Pavatam Asmi Rama Shastra Brutam Aham Jhasana Makaras Chasmi Strotasam Asmi Jahnavi. Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of wielders of weapons, I am the Rama. Of fishes, I am the shark. And of flowing rivers, I am the Ganges.
Okay.
32. May I read, Prabhuji, 32?
Yeah, please.
Text 32. Sarganam adir antascha madhyam chaivaham arjuna adhyatma vidya vidyana vada pravadatam maham. Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle. O Arjuna, of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, and among logicians, I am the conclusive truth.
Thank you much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So the previous one was pretty clear. Of purifiers, I'm the wind. Of the wielder of weapons, I'm Lord Rama, because Lord Rama is known for, having lots of weapons and breaking the that massive bow and all that. So he's known for that. And of fishes, I'm the shark, which is the most ferocious and the biggest of all fish. And of the flowing rivers, I'm Ganga. 32 is very interesting and a little intriguing. So I'll go into the purport and learn from Prabhupada's words. So among the created manifestations, the first is the creation of the total material elements. As explained before, the cosmic manifestation is created and conducted by Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, and then again it is annihilated by Lord Shiva. Brahma is a secondary creator. All these agents of creation, maintenance, and annihilation are incarnations of the material qualities of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is the beginning, the middle, and the end of all creation. So, as we have learned before, that from the pores of Mahavishnu, all these universes come out. From the universes, within those universes, Mahavishnu expands into Kshirodakshaya Vishnu and Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and they manage the universal dealings, right? And Lord Brahma is a secondary creator who kind of orchestrates, who manifests or makes sure from the Mahatattva everything else gets created, all the blueprint of the universe is executed, and all the species are created as well. So from Lord Brahma comes the Prajapatis, Daksha especially, they progenited, is it the right word? They basically create all the 8.4 million species of life that we see in the various planetary systems. So he's called a secondary creator. And at the end of Brahma's day, there's partial annihilation of the universe. That means the lower planetary systems and till the half of the universe gets submerged. And then every day of Brahma, partial creation happens. And when Brahma dies after 311 trillion years or 100 years of Brahma's life, there is complete annihilation by Lord Shiva and the Rudras, right? The 12 Rudras. So there's the Shiva Tandav, and Antasesh, fire comes out of Antasesh, all the hoods, and the whole universe is burnt down, and all the jivas are sucked back into Mahavishnu's pores. We go into Shushupti stage, which is deep slumber. And then again, creation begins and like that. So Krishna is saying, I am the beginning, middle, and end. Because Lord Brahma is also, in one sense, the material expansion are empowered by the Supreme Lord. Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna are almost the same, right? In Brahma Samhita, it is given that Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna are like milk and yogurt. So almost the same tattva, but not the same. But still, Lord Shiva is expansion is coming, rooted in Lord Krishna, right? So Shambhu, which is one of the names of Lord Shiva, it is described that as Mahavishnu is glancing on Durga Devi. By that glance, she's impregnating her with all the jivas that are in Shushukti stage in him. And those jivas are getting into Durga Devi, and she's in turn bringing us to Devi Dham, which is this creation, this materialistic creation. So that glance of Mahavishnu that is entering Durga Devi, through which all these jivas are transported into her, that glance is called Shambhu. So that's Lord Shiva. And that's why we see the Shiv Linga, right? There's a male part and the female part, the Shiva part and the Durga part. So that glance of Mahavishnu, and there's a beautiful picture. Let me actually try to pull it up for you. So here you can see what I'm describing. So that's Mahavishnu glancing at Durga Devi, and through that glance, he impregnates her with the jivas. And because the Supreme Lord never comes in contact directly with material nature, he comes in contact through the agency of Lord Shiva. And that's why Lord Shiva is also known as Bhutnath. Bhutnath means who is the Nath of all the living entities, who is the Lord of all the living entities. He's the father of all the living entities in one sense, because he carries the jivas into Durga Devi, right? But the original father is Mahavishnu, who is the expansion of Krishna. Mahavishnu is also known as Karanadakshaya Vishnu. Karan, he is the cause, it's lying in the causal ocean. All right, any confusions on this part? No Shiv Bhaktas want to challenge me? Okay, that's good.
So, Hare Krishna, so what about Lord Brahma? I mean, this seems like creation is through Lord Shiva, or Lord Brahma is only for material.
No, Lord Shiva is for destruction, not creation.
Okay, so I thought this
Lord Brahma is a secondary creator.
Okay. This manifestation of jivas is not creation, not the same as the creation of the material world.
No. Manifestation of jivas. We have always existed. Nobody can create us.
Right. Yeah.
We are not to be created or destroyed.
Right.
But this material creation, the different planetary systems, the planets, the bodies that we are in, right? All of that has to be created, and that's Lord Brahma doing it.
Okay.
From Mahatattva, which is the soup, the creation soup in one sense, where everything is in that soup format. From there, the sound vibration Om, from there, that agitates the Mahatattva, and then it starts separating, right? And from there comes the elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether. They combine with the modes of nature, and they form different from there on, creation begins. So like that. Not getting in the details, you can read in 5th canto Bhagavatam. But Lord Brahma is just putting it together. He is the engineer who's putting it all together and creating the habitable universe that we see it. So sometimes Lord Brahma is a jiva. Sometimes if a jiva is not qualified to be Lord Brahma, it is sometimes expansion of Lord Krishna himself who takes on Lord Brahma's role. Like sometimes the chief minister takes on certain ministries. Health ministry is under chief minister, or commerce is under chief minister. So like that, sometimes the Supreme Lord takes on the Brahma's role also, if there is no eligible Brahma for that particular period. Like right now, our current Brahma, he's a jiva, he's not the Supreme Lord. But there has been instances where the Supreme Lord has taken up that position. Does it help? But nevertheless, is empowered by the Supreme Lord to do that service. Was I able to answer your question, Janak Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, I will read upon the 1st canto more, I think.
No, 5th canto.
Oh, 5th canto, okay.
Yes. Going back to the verse, where are you? Yes. Okay, so the beginning, the middle, and the end. That's what Krishna means, that creation, maintenance, and annihilation, all of that. It's Krishna. And then he says, of all the sciences, I am the science of self, or science of self-realization. So for advanced education, there are various kinds of books of knowledge, such as the four Vedas, there are 6 supplements, the Vedanta Sutra, books of logic, books of religiosity, and the Puranas. So all together, there are 14 divisions of books of education. Of these, the book which presents Adhyatma Vidya, spiritual knowledge, in particular, the Vedanta Sutra represents Krishna. Right? And among logicians, there are different kinds of arguments. Supporting one's argument with evidence and also that also supports the opposing side is called Jalpa. Merely trying to defeat one's opponent is called Vitanda. But the actual conclusion is called Vada. This conclusive truth is a representation of Krishna. So we learned 3 words, and this is important to know. So one is Jalpa. Jalpa means basically one who's supporting my argument and also supports the opposite argument. So we're trying to work things out, we're trying to negotiate. So there is my argument, there is your argument, and we're coming to a common ground. But when one is merely just defeating the other person, that is called Vitanda. In Bengali, there is something called Bad Vitanda, right? So Vada and Vitanda, they goes together. So merely defeating somebody is like, okay, I'm just going to prove you wrong. That is Vitanda. But then I'm also reinstate the fact, that is Vada. And that is representation of Krishna. It's the absolute truth in a logical argument that represents Krishna. Because without that, it is just my ego versus your ego. The Munis, they were known as logicians who like to debate. And their whole point, like modern day scientists, is if I prove my point, I can disprove you. That's the idea. It is not about the truth. It's about me being a better logician than you are. So today, a lot of scientists, you will see, they will disprove a Stephen Hawking's principle or some other person's principle, and that makes them glorious. Like, oh, wow, this man disproved something, theory of something, right? So the more you disprove, the more glorious you are. But then where is the truth, right? And those were actual seekers of truth, right? They not only go in the debate and argument and doubt clearing, but they come to the conclusive truth. And that is important rather than just pushing each other off and saying, I'm better than you. It is also important to establish the truth. And that is represented by Krishna. That aspect is called Vada. So Krishna says, of all creations, I'm the beginning and the end, and also the middle, O Arjuna. Of all sciences, I'm the spiritual science of self. And among logicians, I'm the conclusive truth. Any questions so far on this? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, no questions. Moving on to the next verse. Somebody wants to read? 33.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Text 33. Aksharanam akarosmi dvandvah samaskasya cha aham evakshayah kalo dhataham vishvato mukha. Of letters, I am the letter A, and among compound words, I am the dual compound. I am also in exhaustible time, and of creators, I am Brahma. Text 34, may I read, Prabhuji?
Just give me some time to explain this and we'll go to that.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Akar, the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, is the beginning of Vedic literature. So without Akar, sounds don't have any sense, right? Akar gives, like the word A. So there's a lot of, you see Sanskrit words have a lot of A in it. Karma, Kama, Vijaya, anything you see, Brahma, Krishna, it's like, not Krishna, it's not Krishna, but most words have the Akar in it. So it's a very important part of the alphabet. It's a very important letter. So Akar, the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, A, is or chota a in Hindi we say, right, is the beginning of the Vedic literature. So that represents Krishna. Therefore, it's the beginning of sound. In Sanskrit, there are also compound words, of which the dual words like Rama Krishna is called Dvandva. In this compound, the word Rama and Krishna have the same form, and therefore the compound is called dual. Don't ask me that one. That one requires a little bit of grammatical understanding. Among all kinds of killers, time is the ultimate because time kills everything. Time is a representative of Krishna because in due course of time, there will be a great fire, everything will be annihilated, right? That, like I said, the complete annihilation of the universe, where the fires come from the mouth of Anantasesh, and Lord Shiva does Tandav dance with all the Rudras, and annihilation of the universe happens. So time destroys everything, including the universe. Among the living entities who are creators, Brahma, who has forehead, is the chief. Therefore, he is representative of all the supreme Lord Krishna. So those of us engineers, entrepreneurs creating nice products and services, our chief engineer is Lord Brahma, and he's representing Krishna. I just want to say something about Lord Brahma, just because his name came up twice in the last few verses. It's quite interesting how Lord Brahma how he starts his process of creation. As he's created, he finds himself all this lotus flower, and he goes into the stem of the lotus flower to find, because as I mentioned before, there is Lord Vishnu lying in the causal ocean, right, at the bottom of the planet, bottom of this particular universe. So that's Garvadaksha, Karanaksha Vishnu, I think. Karana Ocean, yeah. Or Garvadaksha Vishnu. I keep mixing up the names, please forgive me. But there is Vishnu, and from his navel comes out this lotus, and on the top, which goes all the way to Brahmaloka, right? So the entire universe, the height of the universe is covered by this lotus. So Lord Brahma starts from Brahmaloka, and as he's going in through the lotus stem, he's not able to see there is any end to it. It's like almost infinite to him. So he comes back up on his lotus, and he's like, this is dark place, there's nothing here, like, what am I doing here, who am I, who's my creator? And he has all these questions that we sometimes have. And then he starts meditating, tapa tapa tapa, and like that, after some meditation, Lord Krishna's flute is what he hears, right? And from the flute, the God, why am I forgetting everything? The Gayatri mantra flows into him, and the entire Vedic literature, the Vedic content, is downloaded into him by Lord Krishna through the playing of the flute. Venum Kvanantam Aravindam Dalaya Taksham, that Venu, that the flute that Krishna has, right? So he hears Krishna's flute, and its whole Vedic literature gets downloaded to Lord Brahma. And it is said Lord Brahma's body is made up of intelligence. So he's quite intelligent, and he can take on the entire Vedic knowledge. Then he starts, and he's the founder of our disciplic succession, right? So we are very fortunate to have Lord Brahma as our first acharya in the disciplic succession. So he takes on the whole Vedic knowledge, and now he knows what to do, but then he gets a little scared. He thinks like his desire is now to create, because it's instructed to create the universe, the living entities blueprint of the bodies and different 8.4 million species, the planetary systems, the planets and the oceans and everything else. So he's like, oh God, this is all materialistic work. And he asks the Supreme Lord, like, my Lord, is this materialistic desire that I have, isn't this a bad thing? Like, am I not doing materialistic things? Isn't this, can't I just do Krishna conscious activity? And sometimes we have this feeling as entrepreneurs that, oh, we are doing all money making and materialistic things. And I told my mentor, actually, when I was building my startup, I was like, well, shouldn't I give up everything and become Krishna conscious? And he's like, no, that's not how it works. And we learned this from Lord Brahma, because our materialistic desire is what? A little car, a little house, a little jet. Lord Brahma's materialistic desire was to create the universe. So for him, it was like, whoa, this is a lot of material desire. I'm taking on a very havoc material activity. how can I do this and still be Krishna conscious? So the Supreme Lord was instructed him, do it with the consciousness that you're doing it for me. And by that consciousness, you will be protected from materialistic desires. This act, although it is material in nature, shall be devotional service unto me. And when you are in Krishna consciousness, doing this activity, this is not different from any other devotional service. Something to keep in mind as we are doing our work, and especially I'm talking to Janak Prabhu, who somehow is not here exactly now.
No, Hare Krishna, Baba, I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay, good. Ha. So you have this question all the time, right? You always go through this confusion, like work, spirituality, work, spirituality. So Lord Brahma had this same dilemma, and the Supreme Lord said, do it for me. Do this as a service. Arjun was told the same thing, fight for me as a service. So when you're doing your work for Krishna's pleasure, it is not different from ringing the bell and doing arati on the altar, right? It's not different from that. So we should not be close-minded into as what is devotional or spiritual work and what is material work. For us as devotees, there should be no barrier. Every activity should be spiritual work. Even sleeping. I'm sleeping so that I can rest my body and I wake up and I serve Krishna again, right? Janak Prabhu, does this help further?
Absolutely.
Clarify?
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Sure. So I just thought I'll just take a little detour and then come back to the purport. Okay. Among the living entities who are creators, Brahma, who has a forehead, is the chief. Therefore, he is representative of the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna. Okay. Moving on. 1034. O best among shloka reciters, please recite the shloka. Oh, did I offend someone? Okay, whoever wants to read, please read 1034.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, text
So
34.
you didn't like when I called you best among shloka reciters? You were like, that's not me.
No, Prabhuji, nothing like that.
I was joking. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. Text 34. Mrityu sarva haraschaham udbhavascha bhavishyatam kritah shrir vakcha narina smritir medha dhritih kshama. I'm all beavering death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Matt.
Hare Krishna.
So people think we are very powerful. I have power, I have money. Why do I need God? It's all going to be good. Even Hiranyakashipu thought like that, who was actually quite powerful, not like little powerful people like we have today. But death, that's it. Krishna comes as death. And Mrityu Sarva, what does it say? Mrityu Sarva Haras Chaham. So as death, he takes away everything. When you have to die, you can't even take this body with you. What to speak of wealth and all the awards and all the credentials and family members and children, nothing. You're dragged out of this body and you have nothing but you. I mean, if you're going down to the hellish regions, then it's just mind, intelligence, ego stuck in the soul. If you're going back to Godhead, it is just the soul. Regardless, it's just you. Nothing that you have achieved materially goes with you, right? So one might think, why do I need God? Why is God even important? I have heard all kinds of things from atheists. And one time Srila Prabhupada was asked this question. He was asked that, oh, what if at the time of death you find out there is no God? Prabhupada said, well, it'll be disappointing, no doubt, but at least I would have the satisfaction that I've lived a good life. I have lived it for the right purposes, done all the right things, done the good work. You know, God conscious life is compassion, kindness, taking care of people, you know, feeding people, you know, having gratitude and all of that. So even if there is no God, all the activities are great activities, are good activities. So I will be satisfied that I lived a good life. I did all the good things for people. But what if you find out at the time of your death that there is God, and you lived a whole life not knowing it, not acting on that principle? How would that be? And that person became thoughtful, and he slowly settled down on his chair, thinking like, that is also another way of looking at it, right? So living a God conscious life, even if it is, let's say, for the atheist's sake, that there is nothing, no Krishna at the end of it, still it's not a bad life. It's a very good life. You're doing all the good things, and you're having, impacting people positively. But if one realizes, I've done all these things, and at the end, what do I have to show? What is it really there? It is described, I don't know how true or false it is, but it's a very well-known fact that, come on, I'm getting old. What's the name of the evolution guy? Charles Darwin. So Darwin, when he was dying on his deathbed, I mean, he led his whole life fighting with the concept of creation, because he established the idea of evolution, that we are all coming from chemical combination into a protozoa to a metazoa to a whatever, to a monkey, to a chimp, to a human. That's his idea. And if you take that idea and take God out of the picture, then there is no creation. It's just, we just happen to be in this planet, which has a perfect conditions, chemicals combined with each other, and suddenly there was a life, and boom, 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 evolution over millions of years, and here we are, human beings. That was his idea. And he lived his whole life believing that. But the nurse who took care of Charles Darwin at the end of his life, in her diary it was found, she mentioned that his last words as he was leaving his body, almost half mad, he had become half mad at the time of his death, as he was leaving his body, he heard the church bell ring thrice, and he mentioned that, everything I've done has been a waste, and that is the real truth. And he left his body. I don't know again if it is true or false, but apparently this was found in the diary of the nurse who took care of Charles Darwin. Now, regardless of if it's true or false, what I'm trying to say here is, it is important to understand how powerful is death, and this is the only truth after birth. Everything else might or might not happen. Death is certain to happen after birth. One might not get old. For example, one might die in the youth, but death is still certain to happen. One might be super healthy and not get any disease, but death is still bound to happen, right? So that's the only constant here. Now, once you understand that, an intelligent person actually works throughout their life. Prabhupada says death is examination and life is a preparation. So throughout this life, we prepare how to die. That means remembering Krishna at the time of death. Ante Narayana Smriti. But those who think, somehow it will be figured out. By the time I die, science would have found some cure for death and we would live on forever. Many people, it's actually a big business where people are in cryogenic form, where they're put in super cold places, hoping when science discovers how to overcome death, they will come back to life. Not going to happen, right? Birth, death. So death, Krishna says, I am death. And as death, I come and I take away everything. Now, death has two faces. Just like Prabhupada says, just like a tiger. Tiger has the teeth, right? The canines is a big teeth. And for a deer, that's death. That's representation of death. But for a cub, a tiger cub, that is mother's love, where the same teeth, the tiger picks up the baby tiger gently, takes him from one place to another and drops him there without harming the baby. And the same teeth can tear open a deer or a buffalo or a zebra or whatever else, right? So similarly, death for us is Krishna. So we are very happily we embrace death. Like, oh, Krishna, you have come. And very lovingly, Krishna takes us to whatever the next destination might be. But for the non-devotees, death is scary, it's fearful. And that's why a lot of times at the time of death, many people have hallucinations, they become almost mentally insane, painful. It's very bad. Death is not easy for non devotees. But for devotees, it's very nice actually. All the experiences devotees have at the time of death has been described as beautiful. It's the last positive smile that they give, right? So there's so death, Krishna is death, and that's why we are fearless. Like, oh, it's Krishna, we are going to Krishna's arms. But those who don't know him, for them it's an unknown territory, and there Krishna is not Krishna, is in the form of Yamaduta. We heard, right? Yamaduta is also representative of Krishna, or Yamaraj, I'm sorry. Yamaraj is representative of Krishna. So for those, it is Yamaraj. And for us, it's Krishna. It's Vishnu Duta. So like, we're going to our father, yay. Like another way to explain this is, when you take a child and you throw the child up in the air. A lot of times in our ISKCON temples, during kirtans, the fathers tend to do that. Throw the child in the air and catch the child. And the child is laughing and enjoying it because he knows father's going to catch me. But when a stranger tries to do that, the child starts crying immediately because he or she does not believe that stranger if he will actually catch. So for us, death is like that. Father throws us. It's like, he's going to catch me, right? So we are enjoying the ride. That's our life as devotees, but not so at all. In fact, there was an article I was reading on hospice nurses and doctors. Hospice is it's more a Western concept than an Indian concept, but in the West, just like there's death preparation. So those who are terminally ill, they go into hospice care, and so that their death is as painless as possible. So morphine is injected into them. Somebody comes and takes care of them, reads something to them, whatnot. So that's called hospice care. And there was an interview done for many hospice nurses, and it was found that most people hallucinate at the time of death. They feel tremendous pain. It's not a very happy process to die. And I'm going to share a happy story with you that will make you understand the difference how devotees die. So in our how do I start? I start with the end. So there was this lady who was in hospice care, and very wonderful lady, and she was leaving her body, and the nurse realized that in 24 hours, this old lady is going to leave her body. And that was the weekend. So what happened was the nurse called up this old lady's family members and said, please come. She's going to leave any moment. So this is the time to give you a farewell bid and whatnot. And the near and dear relatives wanted the nurse to be also there, although it was a Saturday and it was not her duty. She was told, please, you have taken care of her so nicely. At the last moment, we want you to be also there. She said, well, it's not my duty day, but because you're saying, I'll come in personal capacity, but not as a nurse. And she came in personal capacity. So she happened to be a devotee, and she was wearing sari and tilak and all that. She was not wearing the nurse's uniform. And all the relatives of the dying lady saw her, and they were talking to themselves among themselves about her dress code and the tilak. And one of the sisters, one of her daughters, the dying lady's daughter, she came and she asked, are you a Hare Krishna? And she said, yes, I'm a Hare Krishna. I was like, oh, so you must know Jayananda. And she said, who is Jayananda? It's like the Jayananda from 30, 40 years ago. She said, oh, the Jayananda. Wow, him, of course, who doesn't know him? So all of us as ISKCON devotees know Jayananda, because I'll tell you, it'll be revealed shortly. So this lady said, come, this is actually Jayananda's mother. And she wants to see you because she heard you wearing tilak and you're a Hare Krishna. And then this lady, leaving her body, tells this nurse that, I am Jayananda's mother. And as you know, Jayananda died of cancer at a very early age. And I felt very bad that he joined the Hare Krishna movement. I couldn't take care of him, and he died at such an early age, in his early 30s, or maybe when he was 30, he died. But my son promised me one thing. He said, mother, don't worry, even though I'm leaving, Krishna will send somebody, his own person, to take care of you when you are going to die. Don't worry, even though I am not there, Krishna will send somebody for you. Until now, I didn't realize how that was going to happen. But seeing you in sari and tilak, I realized how this whole process works. My son somehow prayed to Krishna, and Krishna sent you to take care of me, and you took care of me so nicely all these years. I'm grateful. Thank you very much. Now, who is Jayananda Prabhu? So Jayananda Prabhu is one of Prabhupada's favorite disciples, who was an engineer in San Francisco, who joined the Hare Krishna movement when he was 25 years old. Now, at that time, he was one of the oldest people in the movement, because most people were teenagers who were joining Srila Prabhupada. So Jayananda Prabhu was 25. It's like, oh, he's an old guy, right? But he was an engineer, he was well educated, and he was capable. So he was made the temple president of San Francisco. And Jayananda Prabhu is to basically take care of everything in the temple, from clearing the trash to cooking to cleaning to everything, and be managing also. And at night he would ride, he would drive cabs to make money for the temple. So all night he would drive cabs to make money, and throughout the day he would be serving. So nobody ever saw him sleeping except in the Bhagavatam class. So when Prabhupada would be giving Bhagavatam class, Jayananda Prabhu would be dozing off. And generally Prabhupada didn't like students sleeping in the class. But Jayananda Prabhu was so special that Prabhupada said, let him sleep, because he knew how much this devotee was working hard for Krishna. Prabhupada said, don't wake him up. But interestingly enough, when Prabhupada, after his lecture, would say, he would ask some questions. So, do you understand this? Can anybody say? And Prabhupada would ask questions. And Jayananda Prabhu, although sleeping throughout the whole class, he would raise his hand and answer the right way, right? So, brilliant person. Now, this is the same person who was a mechanical engineer who built the first Rath of ISKCON. So, San Francisco Rath Yatra, if you Google in the 70s, you'll find those videos. And Jayananda Prabhu built those chariots, right? Massive Jagannath Puri-like chariots. And San Francisco, those of you know, is actually not like our Indian roads, which is like plain and straight. It's hilly, so it's ups and downs. The chariots had to go through downs, and there has to be brakes on the wheels, and it has to be pulled up and like that. So Jayananda Prabhu built these first ISKCON chariots. Then he built the chariots in New York. A New York Rath Yatra started, which is again one of the largest Rath Yatras in the world, still going strong. And Jayananda Prabhu started that. So Jayananda Prabhu was building these chariots, and Rath Yatra was happening. And one day, one devotee saw Jayananda Prabhu crawling back to his room, literally on four. He was crawling back. He couldn't walk. And he realized he's not well. So he went into Jayananda Prabhu's room and found him shirtless. And there were boils all over his body. So he had cancer. And he didn't tell anyone that he had cancer. He was with the cancer, he was serving constantly, building the chariots, getting it ready for Rath Yatra. And by the time, in a few days, he passed away. And Prabhupada was very, very hurt by his passing. And Prabhupada made it a ISKCON-wide law that wherever there's ISKCON Rath Yatra happening, there has to be the picture of Jayananda Prabhu in the front of the chariot behind the horses. So you see any ISKCON Rath Yatra, you will see Jayananda Prabhu there. And if you go to Vrindavan, right behind Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi, there is a depiction of Westerners becoming devotees, and there's Rath Yatra happening, and there's Jayananda Prabhu. There is a depiction of him. And Jayananda Prabhu's Samadhi is in Mayapur, in Rajapur actually, which is half an hour from Mayapur, the Jagannath temple. And there is a Samadhi, and he has been named as the first saint of ISKCON. He is the first, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, personality. So he has been named as saint in ISKCON. So Jayananda Prabhu is extremely well known for those who are practicing devotees. And it is so beautiful to hear the story of Jayananda Prabhu's mother's passing away. Even though he was not there, Krishna sent this nurse without even knowing she was a devotee. She was taking care of such a wonderful devotee's mother. So Krishna doesn't forget. Krishna doesn't forget when we do service for him. Somehow or other, whatever responsibilities we have, he also understands that, and he takes care of that. So we should understand there is no loss in serving Krishna. He is extremely conscientious of nitty-gritty needs that we have, and he takes care of that. So I want to just quickly see if there's any questions or any realizations, anything from your side. Your 15 minutes if you want to have a discussion. Wow. Okay. All right. We'll keep moving. Krishna is death, so do not fear death anymore.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I want to say you something. Like today, my day is really, with my work and stress and some other problems as well. Completely, it's full of stress, Prabhuji. I thought whether I'll attend this session or also I don't know. But after listening your session, especially the way you describe the different types of stories and all, they're very soothing and very so soft and very cool, Prabhuji. After listening your session, simply everything will be stress-free, happy, and it's a kind of 30 minutes of pure meditation. We are really blessed to listen your session, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for that. We are blessed. I want to
Thank you,
say you
ma'am.
this thing, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
I'm also saying the same thing, Prabhuji.
You're making me blush. It's anyways the glories of devotees and glories of the Supreme Lord. That is very attractive and that soothes our heart, right? This is the ultimate medicine for our hearts. So I'm happy to be a parrot for that purpose. All right. So I'm the all-devouring death. I'm the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. Nice qualities to imbibe, not only for women, for men also. But Krishna is saying specifically that these are the ornaments of women, that women are specially gifted with these. So when women have these qualities, you understand this is representative of Krishna, right? So fame, fortune, fine speech, right? Memory. So I generally tell my startups, like if you're hiring somebody for sales, it's always good to get women because of their fine speech, and they're more convincing than men generally are because women have more EQ, emotional quotient, than men do. So when it comes to selling, it is really, women are very good with psychology. Women are, if not, I'm just not saying it to be gender biased, it is actually a proven fact, scientifically proven. Women are much better at interpersonal skills than men are. And Krishna is saying that is me, that represents me, right? That fine speech, the memory, the fame, the fortune, intelligence. So few verses back, I was getting beaten up by a lot of you, where Krishna says women are lesser intelligent. And here we are hearing intelligence in women is so what kind of intelligence is that, right? That's something to question. And what kind of intelligence was that was being talked about? So women are not like dumb and dullards. There's different flavors of intelligence, right? Steadfastness and patience. A woman can be very, very patient. A man generally is not as patient as a woman, right? Carrying 9 months a baby, or think about these ladies. What's her name? Who waited for Bhishma? Amba, right? Who later on became. What did he become later on? What did she become later on? Tell me now. Half moon, half moon. What?
She turned into a eunuch, right?
Yeah. What was the name of the person who was a eunuch?
Shikhandi.
Shrikhandi, right? So she waited a whole lifetime, burnt herself, took birth again, went, grew up. She actually was born as a. There was a story where there was a sex change that happened, right? Because I forget what happened exactly, but there was like a sex change that she asked one of the yakshas and whatnot, the first sex change operation in history. And she, from there to became he, but that was not fully he. That was male-female combination. That's why Bhishma could not throw arrows when he stood up in Arjuna's chariot, and as a result, Bhishma was killed. So the steadfastness we see in her, the determination to kill Bhishma, who was practically immortal, 2 lifetimes later, she is still going strong. So women, when they want to take revenge, that can be very scary, because men are easily forgiving, like they move on, like it's okay, not a big deal. But women, when they decide something, that same quality can be powerful or can be very dangerous. right? As a CEO, that can be very powerful. Dikha denge, kar denge, like I'll make it happen. Unless I do it, I will not breathe, right? A man can give up very easily. But the same thing when it comes to revenge and other things can be slightly risky. Not slightly, can be very detrimental. But regardless, Krishna is saying these qualities in a woman is representative of him. তাই ইন্দ্রনাথ? I can almost hear them. All right. As soon as a man is born, he dies at every moment. Thus, death is devouring every living entity at every moment. But the last stroke is called the death itself. That death is Krishna. As for future development, all living entities undergo 6 basic changes. They're born, they grow, they remain for some time, they reproduce, they dwindle, and finally they vanish. Of these changes, the first is deliverance from the womb, and that is Krishna. The first generation is the beginning of all future activities. The 7 opulences listed, fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience, are considered feminine. It is, if a person possesses all of them or some of them, he becomes glorious. If a man is famous as a righteous man, that makes him glorious. Sanskrit is a perfect language and is therefore very glorious. If after studying one can remember a subject matter, he is gifted with a good memory or smriti. And the ability not only to read many books or different subject matters, but to understand them and apply them when necessary is intelligence, medha. Another opulence, which is another opulence. The ability to overcome unsteadiness is called firmness or steadfastness, dhriti. And when one is fully qualified, yet is humble and gentle, when one is able to keep his balance both in sorrow and in ecstasy of joy, he has the opulence called patience, shama. So again, this is a verse that glorifies women, and Krishna is representing. So those who are women here can look at yourselves as, okay, do I have these qualities? Can I enhance these qualities? Because that is a direct representation of Krishna in our lives. So kind of nice to know that. Okay. Brihat. Okay, sorry, I'll not even try. Go ahead, Raghunath.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Text 35. Bruhat Sama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Matanam Margashirshoham Mruthunam Kusumakaram. Of the hymns is the Sama Veda and the Brihat Sama, and of poetry and the Gayatri. Of months and Margashirsha, November, December, and of seasons and flower bearing spring. Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
much. It has already been explained by the Lord among all the Vedas, he is a Samaveda. The Samaveda is rich with beautiful songs played by the various demigods. One of these songs is the Brihat Sama, which has an exquisite melody and is sung at midnight. So of all the hymns in the Samaveda, I am Brihat Sama. So I don't know what that is, but apparently that's very melodious and sung at midnight of all times. Okay. In Sanskrit, there are definite rules and that regulate poetry, rhyme and meter, and are not written whimsically, as is much in modern poetry. That's why you see Bhagavad Gita, right? There is a certain, like Ragini Mataji beautifully sings in a certain meter and a certain rhythm. That's because that's how it is written down. There is actually a formula, like kind of like a barcode, barcode, how it has to check some, you can figure out what are the numbers of the barcode, right? There's a formula with which you come to the last 2 digits that are the checksums, or the credit card number, right? So there is a rule in which these numbers are formed. There's an algorithm behind it. So similarly, there is a rule or algorithm behind poetic literature that is given. That's why in the Vedic literature, you see they all have a meter. There's a certain way to read them. So among the regulated poetry, the Gayatri Mantra is chanted by the duly qualified Brahmanas and is the most prominent. The Gayatri Mantra is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam because the Gayatri Mantra is especially meant for God realization. It represents the Supreme Lord. This mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people, and when one attains success in chanting it, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must first acquire the qualities of the perfectly situated person and qualities of goodness according to the laws of material nature in order to chant the Gayatri Mantra. So not everybody can chant the Gayatri Mantra. It is whenever you go to a sari shop or some place, they are always playing this Gayatri Mantras. Especially go to a religious place, they'll always have the Gayatri Mantra playing on loudspeakers. Not supposed to be the case. It's supposed to be whispered into the ear of a newly initiated Brahmana. Who's a newly initiated Brahmana? Not by birth, but by qualification. What's the qualification? One is situated in Brahma Gyan. One is situated in spiritual knowledge, in goodness. Such a person is Brahmana. Such a person is qualified to chant the Gayatri Mantra. One must first acquire the qualities of the perfectly situated person and the qualities of goodness according to the laws of material nature in order to chant the Gayatri Mantra. The Gayatri Mantra is very important in Vedic civilization and is considered to be the sound incarnation of Brahman, or Brahma is the initiator, and it is passed down from him in disciplic succession. So Gayatri Mantra coming from Lord Brahma, coming down to all the way to us. But it is not something to be chanted frivolously by anyone and everyone. I was born in a Brahmin family to wear the sacred thread, and once I realized I'm not a Brahmin by qualification, just by birth, I took off my sacred thread and I stopped chanting Gayatri Mantra. Because Hare Krishna Mahamantra doesn't have any rules or regulations. So I can chant Hare Krishna anywhere. I'm not qualified. That is also okay to chant the Hare Krishna. It is a Mahamantra. It includes Gayatri Mantra. It includes everything. But Gayatri Mantra is specifically for those who are elevated Brahmana by quality, not by birth. The month of November